Girls, on the other hand, will become women, and will learn to make their peace with this, because there's no way to escape the narrow vision of our destiny as refracted through the crystal ball of the patriarchy. Come on, we're perfectly capable of putting up with their little idiosyncrasies. In any case, we don't have a choice. What kind of women are we when we avoid the male gaze? Take your choice: sex-starved, dyke, or hysteric. Apart from the fact that it undermines our cause, it appears that misandry is also very difficult for men to deal with. An intolerable brutality that adds up to the shocking outrage of precisely 0 deaths and 0 casualties. Apparently, what with all this feminist bullshit, #MeToo, and the rest of that crap, it's very hard to be a man nowadays. They don't know how to flirt anymore, how to get in a lift with their female colleagues, how to crack a joke. What do they still have the right to do now? So much existential dread for which I don't feel a great deal of sympathy. All that time they spend snivelling about how hard it is to be a poor persecuted man nowadays is just a way of adroitly shirking their responsibility to make themselves a little less the pure products of the patriarchy. Strangely, not many men actually stop to wonder why feminists dislike them so much. If they did, they might notice the statistics are quite damning. But they're too busy explaining to us that they're not like that it's really not nice to generalize like that, and if we alienate them with all that talk of men are trash, the risk is they won't join in and help us in our struggle. As if we were incapable of organizing our struggle without them, as if we haven't been doing precisely that for years, and as if, when they invited themselves into our ranks to join the struggle, they didn't always end up taking over, talking over us, and even imposing their decisions on us while they were about it. I see misandry as a potential way out, a way of refusing to accept these norms, of saying no with every breath. Hating men as a social group, and sometimes as individuals too, brings me so much joy, and not just because I'm a crazy old cat lady. If we all became misandrists, what a fabulous hue and cry we could raise. We'd realize, though it might be a bit sad at first, that we don't actually need men. I believe, too, we might liberate an unsuspected power, that of being able to soar far above the male gaze and the dictates of men, to discover at last who we really are. Misandry, a definition. I think at this point it's worth defining the concept of misandry as I employ it in this essay. I use the word misandry to mean a negative feeling towards the entirety of the male sex. This negative feeling might be understood as a spectrum that ranges from simple suspicion to outright loathing, and is generally expressed by an impatience towards men and a rejection of their presence in women's spaces. And when I say the male sex, I mean all the cis men who have been socialized as such, and who enjoy their male privilege without ever calling it into question, or not enough. Yes, misandry is a demanding and elitist concept. Ultimately, misandry is a principle of precaution. Having spent so much time being at best disappointed and at worst abused by men, all the more so having absorbed the feminist theory that articulates patriarchy and sexism, it's quite natural to develop a carapace and stop opening up to the first man who comes along and swears on his heart that he's a really good guy. Footnote: a little observation with no scientific basis. Most of the time, when a man goes on about how decent he is, you only have to scratch the surface for the veneer to begin to crack. It's a bit like that old cliché about sex itself, except in this case, it's true. The ones who go on about it the most are the least likely to be actually doing it. All the more so, given that to prove his worth, the man in question simply has to demonstrate genuine thoughtfulness in order for our hostile feelings to subside. But his probation period will last forever. Nothing against him personally, it's just that it's hard to give up privilege, and even more so to actively campaign for all of one's fellow men to be similarly stripped of theirs. He might be feeling a bit low one day and be tempted to hit on a girl in a bar.